Good evening.
My next meeting got pushed back to 8:30, so to get there safely.
What do you guys want to do?
I mean, it would be a, service to the,
To the rest of
to
the
the
audience?
rest of them, if we could swap that around, and it wouldn't be that,
Good evening and welcome to the Police Oversight Board meeting for Thursday, October 11th, 2018. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. St. John, will you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. The mission statement of the Police Oversight Board is advancing constitutional policing and accountability for APD and the Albuquerque community. Can we have an approval of the agenda?
I motion we approve the agenda.
And a second?
Okay, I second. Were we going to make a change to the agenda?
In discussion, yeah.
Okay.
And let's open it up to discussion.
You were talking.
I would move that we change the agenda from, and put item 7 after item 8 in the agenda.
Okay. Any concerns with that from the board? No? Okay. With that change, I'll take a vote on the approval of the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we're going to move to public comment, and Tony Perard, we've got you up. And again, Katrina will signal you when your time is up.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Tony Perard, and I am the first and original intervener in the settlement agreement, CV 1025 RBSMV. However, due to the separatist attitude of Judge Brack and the lawyers of the city of Albuquerque, the court seems to think that they have the right to pick and choose who can come into the court or not. From the start, Judge Brack has always stated that he wants more public input into the reform process. As long as you are represented by an amici and an attorney. To this day, the same claims have been made about public input. Sorry to say that this oversight board is being fooled into believing APD is complying with the settlement agreement. How can you trust an officer who is supposed to be head of internal affairs, but yet commits a felony, changes police reports? How can you trust this person? She should be in jail, and I'm talking about Jennifer Garcia. As I had already been threatened by Judge Brack, Damon Martinez, and the U.S. Marshals to stay out of this case, on 1/15/15, on September 21st, 2018, I again filed a document of discovery. I was wondering about the overhead. I'm sorry. But it's a simple five question document, and the judge chose not to answer it at all. As Judge Brack continues to violate the law in reference to the rules of engagement, I will state that the corrupt Judge Brack needs to be removed from the bench, and so the public can make the proper reforms to this defunct police department. All the people need to do is give you subpoena power that is lacking on this oversight board. More open public meetings are encouraged. And I saw the special meeting, and I was just stating to I'm sorry, I can't see your name. Miss
It's Chelsea Vandeventer.
Miss Van der Renner, thank you. I encouraged her to put it out on media, put it out everywhere. We need more people in here. This room should be packed with people, and they're not. But APD can no longer keep sweeping these murders under the rug.
Thank you,
So-
Tony. Your time has expired. Thank you. All right, there being no additional public comment signed up, we're going to move on to review and approval of the minutes. We have two sets. The first is from our regular September 13th meeting. Do I have an approval of these minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful, motion carries. We are going to move on to reports from city staff. Do we have anybody here from APD? Hi there. Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me, there are 2 minutes, but it'll just take a second for the other if you want to come on down. The second set of minutes is from our special meeting on September 21st. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Cass. All right, come on down.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mike Miller, Vice Chair Galloway, and members of the board. I'm here from APD Internal Affairs to give you our report for the month. So we always start, we will give you the calls for service for September of 2018. And the Albuquerque Police Department responded to 42,970 calls. And if you can see that in front of you, that's actually a decrease from August of about 2,400 calls for service. So people getting back in school, weather getting a little cooler. We discussed some of those trends last time as well. So for internal affairs, we had 6 cases during the month of September that were completed. None of those were administratively closed, and none of those were mediated. And of those 6 cases, the following discipline was imposed for those cases. We had 1 counseling, 1 verbal reprimand, 1 letter of reprimand, and 1 termination. Moving down the list for our EIRS, which is going to be our early intervention system, there were 27 alerts that were distributed. And for internal affairs during the month of September, we actually have 14 cases pending. And there's also 4 cases that are out that are assigned to the area commands as well for investigation. So that makes a total of 18 cases. And with that, that's all that I have, and I'll stand for any questions you may have.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
City Council, I think we have a guest with us. I'm sorry, let me, Jeff Hertz, right? Hi, Jeff. Turn on your mic. Thanks.
Vice Chair, board members, I'm here on behalf of Julian Moya, who couldn't be here tonight from the City Council staff. We just have a few things to report back. First, Julian wanted to thank the board members and Mr. Harness for attending the City Council study session on September 28th. The discussion was informative and helpful for the City Council. 1823 that includes amendments to the police oversight ordinance was deferred to the next Finance and Government Operations Committee meeting. Due to the Veterans holiday in November, the next scheduled FGO meeting is on November 26th. As you are aware, OC 18-8, reconfirmation of Director Harness, was deferred and is scheduled to be on the City Council agenda for November 19th. I stand for any questions, however, because I'm not as full aware of all that's happening with the board. Any other questions you might have, I'll refer them over to Julian as well. So.
I have just one.
Yep.
Do you know if the deferral of the ordinance changes will affect Director Harness's contract? I know that was the reason for the deferral at that City Council meeting.
Vice Chair, board members, I do not know personally, but I can ask Julian about that and I can report back on that.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have one question, Vice Chair.
Yes.
Were you in attendance at the finance subcommittee that met earlier this week?
I was there, board members, I was there as a policy analyst, though, working on a different bill. And so I'm a policy analyst with the council office, and so I work with a variety of other counselors, but I was in attendance that night.
Okay, and do you recall what was discussed regarding our ordinance changes which came before the finance committee?
I was not, I was in and out of the meeting. I only was there for the bill that I was there on behalf, so I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
And from the mayor's office? Hello.
How you doing? Madam Chair, Galloway, members of the board, James Lewis, Senior Advisor to the Mayor of Public Safety. Just wanted to make an announcement, a reminder that we're going to have the CASA Town Hall meeting on November the 10th, and right now we have it scheduled from 2 to 4. And we should be getting invites out by the end of next week. Again, one of the things that we're trying to do is educate the public. We're going to be sending invites out to just about all the faith community, neighborhood associations, the coalitions. So we're going to try to see if we can get the community engaged. A lot of people don't have any idea what the CASA is, so we would like to educate. And we are inviting all the amicis. The amicis have representatives, but a lot of times the members of the respective amicis don't come to those meetings. So we would like to give them an overview of where we are with the CASA agreement. Madam Chair, that's it. I will stand for questions.
Where is the town hall taking place?
It's going to be at the convention center. We're still working, and we should have that by the end of the week, the actual room that it's going to be in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, moving right along. From the CPC.
You skipped on the city attorney.
Did I? That's what I get for, thank you. We'll come back to it. Mr. Sullivan, we'll get with you. Hi there.
Did I do something?
Nope, not at all.
Good. I often do. Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Valley CPC, Rowan Weimart Chair. We are building all the time. Our attendance appears to be increasing most months. I'm up to about 65 email addresses that I send out into the neighborhood associations. We're determining where most of our participants are coming from, and once we get a better picture, we're going to start doing more outreach. I talk about CPC to practically everybody I come across. We had a very good presentation by Chief Geyer. It wasn't any PowerPoints or anything. He just talked directly to the participants, told everybody how it was going. This following week, we're hoping to get some basic reports from Mr. Harness and Mr. Lewis about how things are going. And we'll also be looking at the recommendations that we've crafted. I need to run them by other voting members first. And then also November 15th, Thanksgiving potluck. I will be sending you all invitations. Thank you.
Any other members of our CPC community that would like to address the board?
Sure, why not?
Come on.
My name is Rod Contney. I'm the chair of the Foothills CPC. And I just wanted to let everybody know that the CPC chairs and my representative are working hard on making a draft of a document that will continue the CPCs beyond the CASA. Are you aware of that? Okay. Well, But the point is that they are working very hard on this document, and it'll have to be approved by the city council. Other than that, we came to rock along okay at the foothills. We had a senator speak to us, and very informative. And I think it's all concerned is that the CPC should continue beyond the end of the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could, I'd like to say, I think I was at the CPC meeting on Monday where Senator Sander Rue spoke about the,
Yeah.
he chairs or co-chairs the subcommittee on criminal justice reform for the state legislature with Mo Maestas, and he gave a very good presentation, and I think you did a service to the community by having him appear at your CPC, and so I just like to say, keep up the good work. So, thanks.
Okay. Well, Dr. Cass always comes to our meetings, so he's always there. I'll tell you that, okay? Thank you.
Mr. Sylvan, please.
Vice Chair Galloway, board members, I'll be brief. Chris Sylvan, Community Outreach Manager, APD. The only thing I have to report out is, well, let's start here. I'm pleased that CPC voting members have started to show up to the POB meetings. That's really important. And it's better to hear from the voting members than myself sometimes, but you know, I'm downplaying my role. The thing that I can report out is we scheduled our quarterly summit. It's December the 8th, and it's going to be at 1:30 at the convention center. More details will be following, and I'll let you know when it happens. I'll let you know when we have refined what we're going to do. Stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I skipped the city attorney's office. My apologies.
Good evening, Vice Chair Galloway and board members. So I have a brief update. On the 3rd of October, the monitor approved SOP 252, which was the general use of force policy. The next day, there was a telephonic status conference with the court. And following that call with the court, there's traditionally another call with the MIKI. And that was a call, but it was also a in-person discussion with APD Forward was there. CPC membership was there in the room as well. And so we had a good talk about 252, the use of force general policy on that day. And because 252 has been approved by the monitor, we can now move forward with getting his approval of 53, which is use of force definitions, 54, which is intermediate weapons, and 55, which is the de-escalation policy. It's anticipated that the city will send, so 53 was sent today, so definitions was sent today. 54 and 55 will likely be sent tomorrow by the city. And he has 15 calendar days to approve or disapprove of those 3 policies. So that's where we stand with the policies. Of course, the independent monitor's report was delivered to everyone as a draft not that long ago. And by the 17th of this month, the parties have an ability to comment on that draft, so that will happen. And then on the 2nd of November, it will be filed with the court and public available for dissemination. Then November 5th, there'll be a status conference with the court. That'll be here in Albuquerque, but it is just the parties that will be there present in person before Judge Brack. And then there will be the big in-person status conference, or hearing rather, will be the 7th of December. And that will be the one where the last monitor's report will be discussed. And then it'll be 11 a.m. where that one will take place. And I think those are the big highlights. Of course, the city's working on a new compliance plan, so there will be more amici meetings to receive input on the substance of the compliance plan and sort of the readability and efficacy from the community's perspective. And so I stand for any other questions you may have, or any questions you may have.
What, the December 7th meeting is the federal hearing?
Correct.
All right, I just want to be clear. It's around the last monitor report.
Right.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Director Harness?
Yes, Mr. Schmiel, the issue of my contract was brought up to Judge Brack, and I can't tell from the transcript whether or not the city is going to stand on its September 28th letter, which was submitted to the court, or whether or not they intend to submit another brief or offering to Judge Brack regarding that issue.
Vice Chair Galloway and board members and Director Harness, in the last telephonic status conference, the court asked the city to provide not formal briefing, but an update to him by tomorrow. So that will happen tomorrow. Those discussions are still taking place.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then a couple things I forgot to, not a couple, but some things I forgot to mention. So 56 and 57, so officer reporting of use of force, that SOP, and then 57 is the review investigation of use of force. Those will be to OPA next Thursday, so those will be coming, and we can get that process started. Of course, there were the discussions of those two SOPs some time back at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and Mr. Harness and I believe, I'm sorry, Director Harness and Mr. Cass were there, so Dr. Cass, got my titles off tonight. And then also next Thursday, we'll have SOP 2.8, which is the on-body recording device policy, which had been before OPA previously, but it was taken back for some more discussion and revision.
Vice Chair Galloway, may I make a comment? Mr. Schmiel, I just wanted to say that I have reviewed the 252 resolution draft. I'm pleased with it overall. I am cautiously optimistic. I think that the proof will be in the pudding of the training, et cetera. I'll be interested to attend the OPA meeting on 257 because it does seem like there will be 257, some language from 257, if I'm understanding things correctly, is incorporated by reference into 252. And so I'll be eager to see what that is going to look like. But thank you for the work. And I do believe that you guys made a very honest effort to incorporate community feedback, and I think that it's evident in the policy that we have, the final policy that we have, and so I wanted to thank you guys for that.
Vice Chair Galloway, Board Member Van Deventer, thank you. And we're taking the same approach with, I think 56 is a little more innocuous, I guess. Because it's just the, yeah. Is a little more innocuous. It's just the reporting of force. It's obviously important, but 57, we're trying to strike the same balance with regard to concerns about really what I view as objectivity. I think that was the real issue with objectively reasonable force. And so we're happy to have, and it was a collaborative effort all the way up to the Chief of Police to get that in the policy in a way that worked for all the stakeholders.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have one last question, if I may. And so I've also reviewed the transcript of the telephonic hearing that took place recently. And in regards to what Director Harness was asking about regarding his contract, I recalled the judge asking that the city brief the issue, and you just mentioned that he wasn't requesting a formal briefing. I'm wondering if we can receive a copy of what you provide, or when you say informal, does that mean that it will be telephonic? Because one twist here is that because we are not a party to the case, we don't have an opportunity to present, any arguments as to why we may differ in our interpretation of these events. And so I'm curious as to whether or not we'll be able to be privy to what those arguments are and how we may receive them.
Sure, Vice Chair Galloway and Board Member Van Deventer, I would have to check back with the city attorney and have a conversation with him about that. I just reviewed the transcript, and it actually specifically mentions an email to him.
Oh, does it?
Yes.
I missed that.
Yeah, and so I would have to check with him to see how he wants to handle that, not being a party and being a part of the city, you know, independent of certain branches of the government or the city entity. I think it's something I can ask him about and report back to the board.
I would appreciate that, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much, and I'd just like to echo Ms. Vandeventer. I think that this was a long process, and I appreciate your hearing us out and hearing out the community and working with everybody. It was no small effort on your all's part, so thanks.
Of course, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Do we have anybody here from the APOA? I don't see Mr. Willoughby.
No
All
one
right.
here from the APOA?
Nobody's from the APOA.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to move on to the CPOA, and Director Harness, your report.
Vice Chair Galloway, Honorable Board, good evening. Just a recap for the public as far as the issues with the Executive Director's contract. The attorneys for the Police Oversight Board and the CPOA sent a letter to President Sanchez requesting that that the City Council honor the settlement agreement and put the approval of my contract on the October 1st agenda. The city responded with a letter from Attorney Aguilar on the 28th and said that they would continue to do their course, continue due course, and have it on the agenda on the 19th of November. In the meantime, the attorneys for the POB sent a letter to the Department of Justice, which emphasized and pointed out what they believe is the CASA's controlling of the issue. And so it was discussed in the October 4th status conference, and as Mr. Smeal has reported, they plan to brief by email Judge Brack tomorrow. So we'll look forward to how that turns out. Also, a reminder of the status and the number of vacancies that we have on the board. We have 3 openings. Member Armijo resigned on March 25th of 2018. Member Larson resigned on the 19th of May, 2018. And Member Cruz resigned the 10th of July of 2018. So we have 1 position that's been open for right at 6.5 months. The study session for the oversight ordinance was on the 28th of September. We were all there. And then I believe it was the intention of the Finance and Government Committee to defer the oversight ordinance from the beginning Monday night at the Finance and Government. So I don't believe there was actually any discussion. I think that was already scheduled to be deferred again. And thank you to Mr. Hertz for providing us that date because that was not a part of the minutes from the October 8th Finance and Government Committee. On Monday, Attorney Gooch and I met with Jeff Driggers, Assistant City Attorney, and Ethan Watson, the Deputy City Clerk, regarding IPRA and whether or not the CPOA and the POB are going to incorporate itself in the city's next request system. Those discussions are ongoing, and when Attorney Gooch believes that she has an agreement in place that works out all of the details that she has concerns with, then she will bring those details to the board for a full vote. IMR 8 was distributed to you last week, and if you have comments regarding IMR 8, then they need to be to the monitor by the close of business on the 16th. I would ask that you channel those through me so that we can put together one document regarding any concerns that you have regarding IMR 8. I believe overall, in reviewing it, it's very favorable for the CPOA and the POB. There is a discussion and there is an acceptance of the minimally substantiated standard for administratively closed cases. It's discussed in 2 places in IMR 8. There was one case that they thought there should have been a little extra investigation, the second follow-up interview, even though they believed that the findings were correct. And they would like for me to develop a testing procedure for attendees at NACOL so that there is documentation that the information at the trainings is being absorbed and learned. So that will be something that we will have to work on. But I think those are pretty much the highlights as far as our sections go. The next round of compliance updates from APD, there are 2 possible dates. There's the 14th at 9 a.m., which is a Wednesday, and then there's Monday, the 19th at 1 p.m. I've heard from Vice Chair Galloway that both of those would work, but she might be a little late on the first one.
Director Harness, what was the second date?
11/19 at 1 p.m. That's a Monday.
Thank you.
Dr. Cass has a preference for the 14th. So if you'll get those to me, Mr. Watney from MRAC has already responded that either date will work for him because they're doing combined briefings, ourselves and MRAC. Okay? In your packet, there's also a letter from APD, and it's a 1-pager, and it's concerning APD's desire to hire Paul Guerin and ISR to be a policy, essentially to be a policy analyst and a policy consultant for the department. So both parties, given the fact that we are already contracted with ISR, want to ensure that there's not a conflict between the two. And before they sign off on anything, they want to make sure that Dr. Guerin wants to make sure that the board is okay with it, and APD wants to make sure that the board is okay with Dr. Guerin doing that work as well. As I read it, it looks essentially like a lot of the duties that we would have them doing already, as far as researching best practices and doing that kind of thing. Review the letter and get your feedback to me by the end of next week so I can let them know whether or not they can go forward. The monitor's visits are still scheduled for the 5th through the 9th. We don't have any meeting dates or times set up as yet. And then as Mr. Schmiel stated, the monitor's report will be public and filed with the court on November 2nd. So that will be filed on the 2nd. The monitoring team will come into town that next Monday. So they will be here for the next POB meeting in November. They always make sure that they attend the POB meeting when they're in town. Moving on, we are tentatively scheduled to do a presentation to UNM Community and Regional Planning class on the 6th of November from 2 until 4:30. So if any board members would like to join me, they're more than welcome. I'll get you as soon as I get the room number and all that, I can get that to you. APD's 20th lateral class will graduate on the 16th of next month. And so the ceremony will be at the Kiva Auditorium. And then they will start their on-the-job training. You have gotten the transcript of the October 4th status conference. And you can see that there were several items discussed. Aside from the contract issue, there was also a discussion of a case that was sent to Judge Brack, which has worked its way through the city attorney's office and gotten to our office for an investigation. And then there was a discussion of the review of the Lieutenant G investigation. I will have the Lieutenant G review ready for you in November. And finally, I did respond to the, I was briefed on the OIS on Sunday on Montgomery. So other than that, I stand for questions.
Any questions?
None at this time.
All right, thank you, Director Harness. With that, the next item on our agenda is to go into closed session. We're going to meet with counsel regarding pending litigation or personnel issues. I believe we have to do a roll call vote for that, so
I move that we go into closed session.
I second. And I guess we'll start with you. So all in favor?
Yes.
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 And with that, we are now in closed session. Thank you.